You know what? I just want to play a game that I know is good right off the bat. No disappointment halfway through. I know it's going to be good going into it, so I can just be happy. So that's exactly what I did. This time we got Crash Bash for the PlayStation. Crash Bash was one of the last Naughty Dog Crash Bandicoot games, so you can rest assured this was one of the better ones. This is also during the copy Mario era, where they just copied Mario Kart and Mario Party with Crash Team Racing and Crash Bash. Which, that's not really a negative thing. I mean, it wasn't very original, I admit that, but Crash Team Racing and Crash Bash were both really fun to play. I didn't have those Mario games as a kid, but I played the Crash ones, and honestly, I prefer the Crash games. I'd like to look at this game completely separate from the Mario Party games, because I just want to point out the story mode. While it isn't anything crazy, it's at least something to occupy single players, and it even has a co-op story mode for a nice two-player cooperation. The games themselves can be pretty varied, but there are certainly ones that are more fun to play than others, and others just seem tedious. Each type of game has 4 varieties, so I can't really call them by name, so you just get brief descriptions of the type of game, I guess. The first one is this bumper car game. You try to score balls in other players' goals and don't let any by you. It's an okay game. I mean, it's way worse when you have to play with a second player because you can actually bop balls into their goal, and it's not a good time. And then you have what is probably one of my more favorite mini games on the game, and that's the polar bear games. Everyone's thrown onto this big old iceberg, and the goal is just to bop everyone else off. It can get really hectic, especially when there's no boundaries on top of the iceberg. There's different power-ups that are randomly generated, like lightning bolts that can shock everybody, or you can freeze people, or there's a weight that'll crash onto somebody who has it. It's just mayhem. There's also a series of pogo stick games, and I think this might be my least favorite set of games on the whole game. Simply jump onto squares and then collect a box in order to convert your squares into points. What really annoys me is that seemingly every time you can have half the board covered in your color, but then you're like 2 squares away from a box, you get shot with a missile, or somebody flashes you with some lightning thing and you don't get the box. Happens every time without fail, and it annoys me. I think the only positive about the pogo stick games is that there's the little boot power up you can get that goes wada wada wee. So that's what I call them, wada wada wees. That's the sound they make. What's even more infuriating is that in later levels they change up the rules on you so you don't have to hit boxes, that there's other ways to convert your squares into points where you go in like a little circle or something, or a square. It gets confusing and it hurts my brain, and when I'm in the heat of playing the game and I'm trying to strategically pogo stick my round the best way I can, I just can't do it. I'm not sure how to describe the arena-based game. I guess it's just an arena. You walk around trying to knock other players out by either spinning them, hitting them with a block, or hitting them with another power-up. I'm indifferent to this mode, really. It just feels like the computer opponents always can hit you with good power-ups, that it's never a guarantee when you try to do the same to them. It's usually more fun with human opponents, but obviously it can be difficult to get 4 players in the same room to play with you. So those are all the types of games that are in Warp Room 1 of the story mode, but then after playing through that Warp Room, other games will become available, such as the tank games. This seems simpler than it actually is, but it actually takes a lot of strategy. But it's definitely a fun game. I'm just going to skip over talking about that tank game to talk about the little racing game where you're in a little cart. It's set up more like an RC car game where your controls are fixed in the third-person view, but this one's just so fun. The power-ups are fun, you can boost, you can go fast, you can bop people off. It's great. So the last game that you're introduced to is this balloon popping game, and I honestly forgot this was even in the game when I wrote the script. This one is actually my least favorite one. It's just so forgettable. I don't really have fun doing it. I don't even know why it's supposed to be a game. It's not fun. So those are all the games. And like I said before, each warp room has its different set of rules for each type of game, so the games don't really get stale, and having a 2-player story mode is such a pro to have. Like, I just feel like there's barely any games on the PlayStation that have a full story mode co-op. Like, I love this. I would say the only drawback I can think of is the difficulty, which it's not brutally hard, but it's just harder than, say, Mario Party, which gives most players a fair chance to win regardless of game skill, where Crash Bash, you just gotta get good in order to win. And with party games, not everyone will be at the same level, so some people definitely just won't have fun losing. So on my PlayStation rankings, I slotted Crash Bash right into the number 2 slot above the original Crash Bandicoot. While the original Crash Bandicoot has more emphasis on normal platforming, it's more of a traditional platformer, there's just more to do in Crash Bash, more variety, and co-op multiplayer story mode. It doesn't get much better than that. Oh Crash, you always provide me joy. Except for when I reviewed Twinsanity and it froze on me, that was not joyful. But I do need to give a shout out to my stepson Mikey for helping me get the footage. That's me beating my chest. That's for you. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Working on the next review soon. See you then.